the one fish that really gets me into backing on a regular basis is carp. And we have some epic carp fishing on the Missouri River. We've seen some carp that are pushing 40 pounds out of the Missouri system. And it's cool because you actually see their lips just go out.
Steelhead, they can be super easy. You can have a season where you get tons of fish, and you have a season where you get, maybe a dozen fish or so, like not very many. And that steelhead is just most about confidence. Like once you've caught a few, you're doing the right thing. You just have to keep working at it. You'll eventually get one doing what you're doing. So
really, the more information you can provide to the fly shop guy about what you want to do, the more they can prescribe the flies and the techniques and so forth and help you out.
Something that I always like to tell new fly fishermen to any river, whether they're, it's just their first time at the river, or even a river they've been on before, is like walk down the river and just like sit there for 10 minutes.
I got a tip for you. Don't leave your sinking line hanging off the back of the boat when Calvin's running the motor.
Why not?
Yeah, it'll get chopped off.
What do you mean?
I'm way past 9 lives. I think I'm at like 13. I've been in a couple of planes that didn't make it off the ground or didn't quite make it onto the ground properly and ended up actually almost sunken in a plane in a river.
Welcome to another edition of the Skiff Wanderer Podcast. Today I am sitting next to the Clark Fork River. All right, we're starting over.
yeah, that's fine.
All right, we're not there.
Nobody wants to come here. It's awful.
It's too
right
far.
outside of Missoula.
Oh, wait, that's too far away.
Does that work?
Sure.
I should say Bozeman. Then people will be like, this kid has no idea what he's talking about. Anyways, we're sitting at a public park, so if you hear cars, people, commotion going on, that's why. We are outside and we're in a public place. I am joined today by a couple of the guys from the Fly Project, Calvin and Fred, which I just realized that I've never caught y'all's last names. So if you guys want to just go ahead and introduce yourselves.
We'd like to be incognito.
All right.
Calvin and Fred works.
That's fine. So first question, where'd you guys grow up and how'd you get into fishing?
I'll let Fred go first. It's going to take a while.
So I grew up primarily in Wisconsin, the Great Lakes region, did a lot of fishing in Canada as a kid, and caught a lot of walleye and also got to fish the Great Lakes for salmon and steelhead. And got pretty addicted to muskie when I was in my teens, and that, got me a little sideways. And then I went to college, and then I went to Alaska and had a guide business there for 26 years. And now I live in Cascade, Montana, and work in Great Falls, and basically run a fly shop and do a little bit of guiding on the side, and then look for every opportunity to fish in my region.
That's awesome.
And out of your region.
Did you start fly fishing or did you get into it later?
I actually started fly fishing. My very first fly fishing experience was in Montana, in basically the Beartooth. I led a 3-week backpacking trip with some 16-year-olds from Wisconsin. And I took a little pack rod and basically threw dry flies on lakes and caught fish and went, this is pretty freaking cool. And the next year I went to Alaska and I began to guide. And initially it was mostly king salmon and, gear fishing. But on the side I started fly fishing and then just went, this is the way.
What was that like? Were you 16 or were you just going with, were you going with buddies or?
Well, when I went to Alaska, I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what was kind of like going through your head when you were like, I'm going to go on a 3-week backpacking trip in Montana.
Yeah, so that was actually it was through a camp that my dad directed, and we had a program, and so I was one of the trip leaders. So I was basically I guess it was my senior year in college. I was 21, and in that summer I led that backpacking trip with another leader and a whole group of kids, and we had a pretty epic trip. You were 21
your senior year in college?
I think so.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yeah. Yep. Don't bring math into this.
No, it's good. Smart kid.
I was trying to think.
Maybe I turned 22. I had that one more semester thing or something like that.
No, I'm kidding. That's your ball, sorry.
So, Calvin.
Yeah, Calvin.
All right. Me.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Tri-Cities, Washington. Grew up in Richland on the Columbia River, probably like, I don't know, about a quarter mile from the river. First person to take me fishing was my grandpa. I was down on the Snake River and, caught bluegill. It was awesome. Little bobber and a worm. And then from then on, I was pretty much addicted to fishing. My dad used to take me all over eastern Washington fly fishing and fished all over these little creeks and caught brown trout and rainbows, things like that. And from there, I think, we fished pretty hard all through high school. My dad and I took quite a few trips to Florida. Started when I was about 11 years old. We'd go every year to Everglades City and Chokoloskee, fishing down there. And so I kind of learned saltwater fishing down there, but it was 1 week a year, once a year, so I didn't really know much. And then senior year in high school, he surprised me with a trip to Alaska. So we went to a lodge called Alaska Sportsman's Lodge on the Kvichak River. It was the first or second, no, it's probably the second year they were in operation. And all the guides there were Anchorage Ace hockey players. So,
and I used to watch those guys when I lived in Anchorage.
They liked to fish, but as far as their fly fishing abilities and stuff, it wasn't very good. And Brian had hired a guide. His name was Todd, and Todd was from Colorado, fly fishing guide and super technical. So he kind of unlocked the fly fishing for that was his first year guiding when I was a guest there. And then probably like third or fourth day, I started to teach the guide how to fly fish. And once I kind of started teaching him, I started asking him, like, well, how do you get a job in Alaska guiding? He's like, oh, you should just talk to Brian. He'll probably hire you. I'll tell him to hire you. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was just like, holy crap. Like, I could be a guide in Alaska, like going into college or freshman year. So basically I got accepted to 3 universities. I chose the one that had like the best summer for Alaska. So Western Washington University, University of Washington, WSU. Well, Western Washington University had it started September 22nd and got out on June 7th. So rainbow season opened June 8th. And I could almost work up till when the lodge shut down. Lodge didn't shut down till the 30th, so I missed like 1 week of the year. So I got to guide in Alaska. I didn't have to be there early to set up the docks and do all the grunt work, and then I didn't have to be there at the end. And the first year was super tough. Like, I was in a fraternity of hockey players that have been together for 20 plus years, and it's definitely a fraternity. Like, they were really hard on me. I was 18 years old, 19 years old, and but kind of proved myself through fishing. Guided there for 3 or 4 years, and then got to take my wife Camille up there after we were done guiding, or I was done guiding, so she got to fish, and it was an awesome opportunity. And then from there, it was just kind of, I opened my own outfitting business in Sandpoint, Idaho, ran that for 6 years, and then hopped on board with where we are today, with who Fred and I work for. So House of Fly Project, they came in 2011, and I sold my business to them, and been with them ever since. So
yeah, so can you guys tell me a little bit more about the Fly Project, House of Fly?
Yeah, definitely.
So the Fly Project was, I guess we got to give Sam Wiki credit for the beginning of that plan. Several of us got together and we had the vision of building fly rods and putting together some gear and basically making some money, as a side hustle so that we could afford to do trips in the wintertime and stuff that we weren't able to do otherwise. And after several years, about 4 years before we actually put everything together, right? Mm-hmm. Then it was suddenly like, oh gosh, we have some stuff here. We got some rods we like. We're ready to roll, but none of us were really ready to quit our day job and start our own business. So we essentially worked a deal with our employer, and they bought out our business for as much money as we'd put into it.
Yeah, pretty much.
And now we get to be the Fly Project. We just don't have to, pay the tab.
Yeah, we have way more working capital now.
Exactly.
We still get to design everything. And, we started out like Sam, Paul, Denver, Matt Steffens, you.
Yep.
I might be missing 1 or 2 more, but yeah, we were building rods and wrapping rods and shaving cork, and we kind of
by hand.
Yeah, all by
Yep.
hand. We kind of got into it for like the custom fly aspect, but then Sam wanted to build like a rod shop, so he's got a little shed on his property, and we started building rods in his shed. He and Paul did definitely most of the work. Like we did some of it. But
Yeah, I did more because I was there.
yeah, I wasn't there, but when I was there, they put me to work, so it was a lot of fun. And we definitely focus on like the custom fly aspect because we were noticing like every fly shop had kind of the same fly patterns. Mm-hmm. Every fly shop's the same. They all have the same fly patterns. They buy from the same vendors. So it's kind of something that we're sticking to, like trying to get back to, like we have all these like small batch tires. So we search out these tires via social media or whoever, and if they have really cool looking flies, like we contact them. We're like, hey, we want to showcase your flies on our website. We want to showcase them on social media. We want to sell them in the fly shops. If we can work a deal with them on a lower price, we can. If not, we just buy them for what they're selling them for, and then resell them for just a couple dollars more. And some of the flies are super unique, so we're just trying to like support the fly fishing industry that way, and also have like new cool stuff that is not in every fly shop.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
yeah.
And the fly shop, that is located in Great Falls.
So Great Falls is one of our fly shops.
Yeah,
Our
Okay.
we have
original one.
5 total.
5 total.
Yeah, Lewiston, Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho,
Sandpoint,
Idaho, Great Falls, Montana, and then Spokane, Airway Heights,
Yep.
right in there,
Okay.
out on the highway there.
Dang.
So 5.
It's crazy is like, so I first became aware of the Fly Project, what you guys do, through your YouTube channel, because you guys put out some amazing videos. Did that start early on, or was that like, hey, let's figure out a way to market?
So we were doing videos before we became the Fly Project. We started doing videos just to support our our fly shops.
Yeah.
Originally it was Big R, and then it was North 40, and then once we started the Fly Project, then we decided to up the game even more and do more videos. Then we got so busy doing products that we kind of we haven't been as
That's
up
how-
on the videos lately, but we'll
that's
come
how it
around
goes.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of product, a lot of product stuff we're doing. Big shout out to Jay and Darren. They worked really hard on the videes and getting everything ready.
Getting stuff online, which is a
and,
huge
Jay's
task.
Jay's really good. I think when it was Big R Fly Shop, were we doing vlogs? Big R Fly Shop.
We didn't do any vlogs. We did. I did a billion fly tying videos.
Yeah, we did
with
EMAG fly time videos. We had a really great EMAG when we were Big R Fly Shop, and then once we went to North 40 Fly Shop, Sam was kind of running the marketing for that, and we did a lot of just a ton of content through that. And then now that we've shifted kind of over to the Fly Project and House of Fly, it's not like we're separating a bunch, but we're just more established in the fly fishing world within the conglomerate of North 40.
Yeah.
So we're definitely, we hired a media team. We got a great media team that runs all that stuff for Fly Project. And basically Fly Project and House of Fly go hand in hand. Like House of Fly is the fly shop, and then the Fly Project is our, the brand that we own that has like fly rods, fly reels,
fly lines and hooks.
Fly lines, hooks. We got our custom flies that we, like Fred designs, I design, Sam designs, and we basically farm those out to bring those into our shops. So
That's cool.
yeah.
How many people are involved? Do you know? Because I honestly thought it was like 5 best friends that all live together, and then I saw, I
don't think we could ever live together.
That would be trouble.
well, and then
No work would get done.
just from watching the YouTube videos, and I went through your website, and I was like, oh, they have their own rods and reels and stuff. And as we're going through this, I'm learning you guys are a lot bigger than my little Texas self-thought.
Yeah. So we have 5 fly shop managers who
Okay.
are running the fly shops, and they have some employees, but the fly shop managers are directly involved in product design, product testing, things like that, and then events and media opportunities, things like that. And then we have a team at our office that runs basically the website. We got a few web people. We have media, a couple people in media.
Correct.
So as far as putting a number on it,
bunch.
A lot of people kind of dabble, but the hardcore group is probably 12, 15, something like that. Yeah,
That's
12
awesome.
or 15. So.
And
That's
now
awesome.
we have actually apparel. So we've got a team that actually
yeah,
is
I
working
forgot
on apparel now. So, and they're based in Florida. So,
Oh yeah,
and sourcing materials from Peru and other places. So
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Like, it's cool to see like where I'm at and like the dreams that I have for Skiff Wanderer, what I'm doing, you know, to see hear a little bit about where you guys started from and where you guys have taken it to. I'm sure, did you at any point think that this is where y'all would be at with the Fly project?
It was interesting with the initial idea, I just figured we'd be spending a lot of time after hours building rods and, not fishing. And then we went, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
And so, we kind of adapted, adjusted. And the cool thing is we have some really amazing stuff coming up here in the next,
Oh yeah.
I don't know, 3-6 months.
Oh, it's so hard because
Lots of cool stuff is dropping, but it always takes way longer than you want it
Yeah.
to.
it's a year out from concept design to actual first, second samples. We're on our third sample set now of a new rod series we have coming out. I'm very excited about it. The two-handers actually shipped, so we have a 6-weight, a 4-weight, 6-weight, 8,
Yep.
and a 9.
I use the 4-weight.
Yeah, I use the 6
Yeah.
and 9 and 8 sometimes, but they're awesome. Their actions are great. They're going to be very affordable spey rod, but it's the best components you can buy, and that's one thing we like to pride ourselves on is making the best rods we can and selling them at the best price that we can afford to sell them for. So.
Yeah. Anything else you want to tease out? Because I can tell you right now, my rate of getting stuff out is 2 months.
Yeah.
So if there's anything you want to tease out,
We got some reels.
We got some great reels
New reels coming out.
More fly patterns.
Yeah.
More apparel. Yeah, lots
Not doing
coming up.
waders though.
Not
no?
No.
Not yet.
No waders. No waders. Yeah, the apparel's super cool. The reels are pretty nice. I'm pretty stoked for those. So.
All right. That's business. Let's talk
Business.
about fishing.
Okay.
This is my 4th time out west, and I'm very new to trout fishing, freshwater fishing. My fly fishing experience has mostly been saltwater, and I've been trying to do as much as I can to expand. And one of the things that you guys really turned me on to today, and even when we started talking, was you think Montana, you think trout. That's the extent of it. And you guys have kind of shown me that there's a lot more going on in the West in terms of what you can catch and variety. What's y'all's favorite species to target out here?
One of my favorites is carp. Believe
Carp?
it or not. Yeah. So I spent 26 years guiding in Alaska. I caught lots of salmon and some really huge trout. And when I came to Montana, the one fish that really gets me into backing on a regular basis is carp. And we have some epic carp fishing on the Missouri River and other places in our vicinity. And so I'm pretty addicted to that. So generally speaking, as we move into July, depending on the year, early to mid-July, when we start getting hot temperatures, I spend about half of my week fishing for carp. In fact, most days I just take an hour off at lunch and I run out to the river right next to the fly shop, and I usually catch 1 or 2 carp every day at lunch. And then go back to the shop, and people are like, "Hey, you been fishing?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I just caught a carp." And they're like, "Really? Ugh. Where? Why?" But it's awesome.
They're fun and they're tough.
They get big too.
Oh yeah.
Yep, we've seen some carp that are pushing 40 pounds out of the Missouri system.
Yeah.
And
It's crazy.
they give you a bit of a tussle. When the water gets warm, they're the only fish that you're gonna really basically pull like a king salmon. So
And it's a super technical fish to catch. It's not just get a fly in front of his face and he
they
eats.
can be. I mean, they're very, very wary. They're in clear water. They're very, very difficult. In water where it's kind of stirred up or silty, the key is they've got to see the fly, and just actually getting the fly visible to them can be a very real big challenge. And then actually knowing when they take it.
Yeah.
So it's a game that's super fun.
It's been someone compared it for me to black drum. You ever chase black drum?
It's very similar to redfish or drum or
Yeah.
Yep.
You gotta hit him in the nose.
Redfish are a little more aggressive.
They can be.
Yeah, they
Depends
can
on
be.
the day of the
Yeah.
week.
And I've had some really aggressive carp situations where if you get the fly in front of them, it's like most fish. It's like you can't throw it at them.
Yeah.
But if they discover the fly and you move it away from them and they can see it, they will.
Right.
If they're in the mood, they will pounce on it. And it's cool because you actually see their lips just go out and just grab it. And you stick them, and then you watch your back and go.
Just,
Yeah.
jeez.
That's cool.
Calvin.
Steelhead for me.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I grew up steelheading on the Columbia, and then all through college I fished the rivers outside of Puget Sound, Skagit, Sauk, and a few others, and I just have a love for swinging flies for steelhead. Been to BC several times, and it's awesome.
That's a super technical fish to catch too.
Yeah,
No?
they can be.
They just make everybody makes it sound like that.
Yeah, they
It's
can
more
just,
of a frustration than technicality.
they can be jerks or they can be really happy. It just depends on the mood they're in and the water conditions and things like that. But
And getting to them.
yeah, and getting to them. But the steelhead they can be super easy. You can have a season where you get tons of fish, and you have a season where you get maybe a dozen fish or so, like not very many. And yeah, they can just be super frustrating. Just it's all about timing and fly choice, and that steelheading is just most about confidence. Like once you've caught a few, you're doing the right thing. You just have to keep working at it. You'll eventually get one doing what you're doing. So, but when you have buddies that sometimes we'll get like 4 or 5 a day, and you've maybe had like a bite, and then that's you start to question yourself and your methods and things like that. So yeah, you're always learning. That's what I like about it. Like, you kind of think you got it figured out, and then you go through a dry spell, and then you see somebody doing something, catching fish, and it kind of sticks with along the lines of how you like to fish for them, like tight line, swung fly, and you're like, okay, well, I'll try that this time. Like, and then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You just kind of go back to what you're doing and catch them. So, steelhead for sure.
Steelhead.
And big rainbows. Giant
Big rainbows. Giant rainbows are pretty awesome.
Like bigger than steelhead, but we don't talk about those very much. So
What, giant rainbows?
yeah, we don't talk about
They
them.
don't exist.
They do.
No, they do exist. We've caught
I
giant
know.
rainbows in Alaska, and we've caught giant rainbows in the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, kinda. Mostly Alaska. I'll throw in tarpon too.
Tarpon are the best.
Steelhead and tarpon. Those are my two.
Tarpon.
Tarpon.
So your other species, tarpon.
Mhm.
All right, there's a train going by, guys. Just
Yep.
All right, tarpon.
Do you
So
like catching tarpon?
Second favorite fish is tarpon.
Mm-hmm.
So when I said carp, I just said that's one of my favorite fish to fish for in Montana.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I
my-
guess I could have opened it
Yeah,
up.
Fred's
My-
gonna
yeah.
Fred's gonna
I'm
sidetrack
going
you.
to back off. My favorite fish that I've caught ever
Yeah,
would be Alaska rainbows, big Alaska rainbows, and tarpon.
and tarpon.
Yep.
I have a love-hate relationship with tarpon. And it's not really that I have a love-hate relationship with tarpon, it's I have a love-hate relationship with Florida.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time I go to Florida to go catch tarpon, if you hear that I'm in Florida, expect a hurricane and roll through.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
Your
wind
expectations are here, and what
Yeah.
actually happens is here.
The first time that I
Wind,
went,
jet skis, you name it, it all.
the first time that I went to Florida to catch tarpon, we rolled in and we talked to a bunch of people. And I'm not talking about even like 100-pounders. I'm talking about like I just want to catch a tarpon.
Mm-hmm.
And we roll in and we talk to the guys at the fly shop in I think Naples area, and they're like
Mangrove Outfitters.
two
Probably.
239,
Oh, 239. Okay.
which is I can't remember the name of the town they're
Mhm.
in. But anyways, like we talk to those guys and they tell us all this great information, and then they're like, by the way, the rain that you guys drove through, that's the first time it's rained in 3 months, so we have no clue what's going on down south. And then the second time I went, we went in January. And it was like, it's January, like it's the Keys,
Right.
or not the Keys, but it's the Everglades. Like the weather will be decent. First time in
Cold front.
10 years that they had freezing temperatures in the Everglades.
Snooker
then-
turning belly up.
Yeah.
The third time that I went was it literally like rained every single day, and not like everybody's like, yeah, it's Florida in the spring, like it's gonna rain. I'm not talking afternoon thunderstorms. I'm talking like day to just. So I love tarpon, but I hate Florida.
Okay. Well, next time you book a tarpon trip, let me know. We won't go that week.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite clients, his best saying was, "You always want to book one yesterday and two tomorrows."
Right. Should have been here yesterday.
So
I actually have to say, so my very first experience catching a giant tarpon in Florida was with my buddy Eric Lund, who's actually going to be coming to Montana to fish with me tomorrow for his first visit to Montana. So we're going to be on the Missouri tomorrow. We're probably going to see you up there.
potentially, yeah.
Potentially. But anyway, he fishes out of Isla Mirada, and he's been fishing there now for many years. But this was a long time ago, and we were visiting a friend that lives in Key West, and we drove down there with his boat, and we put in at a boat landing at Shark Key. And he'd never fished there before, and he looks at me and he goes, "I've never fished here before. I don't know where I'm going." And his friend had showed us some stuff on Google Earth, and this was a long time ago when, nav stuff isn't quite up to what it is now. So we just have like a really rough idea of what we're going to do. And the other boat took off because they knew exactly where they were going. And he's like, "Well, you guys just go out this channel and take a right, and there's a flat out there, and you might see something." So Eric's looking at me. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing down here. And I'm like, "Hey, I've never saltwater fished like this before, and I've never caught a big tarpon. And I don't know what I'm doing either. But let's go. Let's have some fun." And literally, we put the boat in the boat landing. We turned it around. We pointed out the channel, and a big tarpon rolls in the channel. And I made my first cast, and I freaking hooked him. And he was a 100-pound tarpon. And after 45 minutes, I landed a fish. And that was the only giant tarpon that was landed in the next 9 days.
Oh, Fred, of course.
So, yeah, I like tarpon fishing.
Yeah, it's easy.
Has it gotten better for you?
So tarpon fishing is always really easy until it's hard. That's what I always say about all fishing.
It's all fishing.
It's always easy.
Really easy on the way to the boat ramp and the boat ride out.
Yeah.
It gets hard really fast.
No, it can. I mean, when you catch a permit, Calvin's caught multiple permit. I've only caught a couple, but the first permit I caught was really easy. He came up 20 feet from the boat. I put a fly in front of him. He ate it. All the other permit I cast to just flipped me the middle fin and said, it's like when they actually eat, it's really easy. So.
Oh, yeah. It's like one of my buddies, his girlfriend's first redfish on fly was a 38-inch redfish. And it's just like, just quit.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
You need to go learn to trout fish or something.
Yeah.
Just get out of here. All right. So I mean, you guys obviously, you run a fly shop. What tips would you give somebody that's coming from, let's say, Texas, like me, if I walked in your fly shop? Because like a lot of the guys that follow and listen to the podcast are newer to fly fishing, and so I want to give advice where I can. Like, so what kind of tips would you have for somebody that is thinking about coming out west?
So I mean, everything is cyclical.
Mm-hmm. Cyclical.
Fred.
I like cyclical.
I like to cycle.
Okay.
I used to ride a lot of mountain bikes.
Sorry.
Thank you for the correction. So, I mean, we have a seasonal progression of, in the spring, we have runoff. So we have a high water window, which can be variable by, as much as 6 weeks between high water and when it tapers off. And then we have particular hatches that run throughout the year. And so,
and when you say hatches, you're talking about bug life.
Particular bug life,
Yep.
Correct, yep. And that really is what drives our Rocky Mountain trout fishing. And so, following that, you can kind of pick a window. Like if you're more interested in catching fish, you can come a little bit earlier in the season. If you're more interested in catching dry fly fish on the dries, you can come in the middle. And if you come late in the season, which is, this time of the year is essentially late summer, it's getting hot. Some waters are literally too hot for trout fishing. There can be really, really good fishing, sometimes really early in the morning on really, really small flies, and there can be some good fishing on hoppers later in the day. But it's a little different type of fishing than it is in the middle to early summer. So I guess it really depends on your skill level. If you just want to catch fish and you come, in the early to midsummer, you're going to catch a lot of fish. If you want to just put a line in the water and listen to your guide, don't care whether you catch them on a nymph or a streamer, then you can catch a lot of fish. But if you're really more focused on a particular style of fishing, then you need to kind of look at those windows when you've got a particular hatch, whether it's caddis or mayflies or stoneflies, depending on what water you're looking at.
Kyle, you don't have anything? No tips.
Sounds good. I mean, I would say
Kyle was like, don't come.
Fred, don't come.
Go to the Madison.
I mean, the biggest thing is if you're going to come out and fish and you've never been here before, it's just best to like take a look around. Definitely go to your fly shop, talk to the guys, say, hey, this is my first time. Like, don't be scared, because there's a lot of guys and fly shops are there to service you. A lot of fly shops will be, some are a little standoffish, but others are completely open. They'll just be like, here, you just need these flies. Go fish here at this time, and you should find some fish. And if you book a guide, definitely just listen to your guide. Like, don't bring your Texas or Florida expertise to Montana. They are just trout, which is fine, but, just trout is a difference between like a 1 to 2 fish day versus like a 20 fish day. So the guides know what they're doing. The fly shop, the people working in the fly shop know what they're doing. They're going to divulge just enough information to where you're probably going to catch some fish. And if you want to, kind of think outside of the box on what they tell you, that's definitely a good thing to do, But, a lot of the rivers that you go to, the famous rivers that you read about, there's trout everywhere. You can catch them. You just have to be a little smart, do your research, and listen to the fly shop guys and listen to your guide if you go. So that's what I would say.
I've always learned, I've always said, and I've always realized, like, with film photography and even fishing, like, if you go into a situation where you do a ton of research and then you go to an expert, whether it's in a fly shop or not, then you have at least a base knowledge. The information that you can get from somebody is at another level because you know how to ask the right questions.
Yeah, and asking questions is good, like being super humble.
Yeah.
If you go in there, like if you're some like, big shot saltwater guy or think you are,
right,
or you think you're a really good angler, and you go in there, they're just going to look at you and be like, oh, And then another thing, like in a fly shop, like just, like treat them with respect. They're going to treat you with respect. So, ask questions, listen to what they say, and then, just start a conversation. Like it could, if you guys hit it off, maybe go have a beer later in the bar, and then you really find out, that's the beta, what's going on.
That's the other thing that like,
buy a few beers and you'll learn a lot more.
That's the other thing that I've realized is everybody that works in a fly shop wants to talk about fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask the right questions and you just let them talk, they'll tell you more than maybe they should have.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes. I don't know. Unless do you guys have like priority training?
Well, one of the ways that I like to help people facilitate their fishing when they come in the fly shop is, a lot of people, if they don't know exactly what to even ask. They just show up and they're like, what fly should I get? And I'm like, well, where are you going?
Yeah.
It's like the more information you can provide, it's like if you can say, well, I'm going to the Missouri River tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, I can prescribe. It's just like going to your pharmacist. The more information, it's like I can prescribe the actual thing that you need, but not unless I get all your symptoms. If you just want to go to Montana and buy some flies, it's like, well, yeah, I can sell you some flies, but it's like you need to give me as much detail as possible. I need to know what body of water, what time of day.
Yeah.
If you're going to fish all day, then you're going to have some flies that work in the morning, in the middle of the day, and in the afternoon and evening, which they can be different at different times. So really, the more information you can provide to the fly shop guy about what you want to do, the more they can prescribe the flies and the techniques and so forth and help you out. And honestly, we're really happy to do that. And I can't tell you how many times I open up Google Earth on my computer and actually show people physically, go to this spot, rig up this way, throw these flies, and then come back tomorrow and tell me how it worked. Let's go from there, and guys will come back in. It's like, it worked awesome. It was great.
Yeah,
it's like caught fish.
For sure.
And if it doesn't, then it's like, okay, well, let's make some adjustments and then try again. So.
Yeah, and we're like, all the fly shops are like that. Like we're really open with that. We give people the right spot, the right tools to catch fish. Something that I always like to tell new fly fishermen to any river, whether they're, it's just their first time at the river, or even a river they've been on before, is like walk down the river and just like sit there for 10 minutes. Like literally sit there for 10 minutes. Like it's very nice, it's relaxing, And then all of a sudden you start to see what's going on. Like you take in your surroundings. You're not just like trudging in the water, casting to the far bank on the cliffside. Like there could be fish like right on the inside of the river in the middle of the run, or one down lower you didn't know about. And I teach my kids how to fish, and it's like, okay guys, we're just gonna sit here for a few minutes, and they get super bored. They're like, Dad, there's one right there. I was like, yeah, I know. Let's watch him eat again. Let's time him. Like, okay, came up again. Oh, look, there's another one below him. He's bigger. He's coming up, not as often. And then you kind of, you undo the puzzle of your little run that you're fishing, and
and it's the same. Oh, I didn't catch it. It's the same thing, like when you're flats fishing, like you roll up to a flat, and generally, like you sit there. I mean, you're gonna pole and you're gonna look for fish, but generally within like 5 minutes of watching that flat, seeing what's going on, paying attention to like, is there bait? Is the is the wind the right direction? Is the tide right? Are the fish here? Like within 5-10 minutes, just like you're saying, like you have an idea of like, this is gonna work, or we need to go find someplace else to hang out. I had that one of the campsites I was at. I sat there. I mean, I camped next to it, so I'm watching it all night. And I'm like, nothing's happening here. And I still fished it the next day because I was like, well, I can put boots on and walk 2 feet from my truck.
Yeah.
But the whole time I watched it the night before, I was like, nah, I don't see anything moving through here.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about tips and advice and everything, I mean, you guys have been fishing for a hot minute. Hardest lessons that you guys have had to learn about fishing, fly fishing, or just fishing in general?
Well, I've been a guide for over 30 years, so I have lessons I've learned as a guide and lessons I've learned as an individual. And I mean, the most important thing is just not to expect that you have everything figured out. Be completely open-minded, always. As soon as you think you've got something dialed or you've got something figured out, conditions can change, weather can change. There's just so many variables in fishing. So I always like to approach it with, a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and then just like, okay, just do whatever I can do.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Being ready, planning, having gear ready before you go fishing is a key. One of my favorite sayings, and I used to actually have a sticker on my boat that said, fishing is not luck. Because people always say, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. Well, you can go fishing and you can just throw a line in the water and hope for the best. Or you can use your mind, use your imagination, and really try to get as detailed as possible into the process. And to me, that's what makes it so fun and so interesting. And so, at times I like to get really detailed about it. And especially when I'm guiding, I really focus on trying to figure out, how to help people catch fish. And then there's times when I go fishing where I'm just like, I just want to fish a certain way. Like, I just want to swing a fly. I'm just going to fish a dry fly today, and I don't care if I catch one fish or no fish. This is how I want to fish today. And so that's what I'll do. So anyway, it's the cool thing about it is you can take it as detailed or as minimal as you want to and go from there. But it's not about luck.
No, it's the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast, if you listen to it, I know that I've talked about it before. It's the puzzle pieces, and trying to figure out all the puzzle pieces and figure out, what is going to happen out on the water. And I don't know. I'm still like trying to figure stuff out. So I feel like 70% of the time, it's like, well, that was wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's not boring. It never gets old.
Yeah.
No.
I would say, expectations, like definitely lower expectations when you go. Have patience. Like I have horrible patience, but when I take people fishing, like I have all these expectations built up, especially like my kids, family, like it's going to be a great day. It's awesome. And all of a sudden, like the wind comes up or the water jacks up, like 10,000 CFS. You're just like, oh man, plan B. So have a plan B. Like it's just fishing. Have fun, especially if you're taking somebody new. Like, I pushed fishing pretty hard on my kids when they were younger, and they both hated it. But now they're 15 and 13, and they're kind of getting back into it because they're going with their friends, and it's more about fun. Like catch a few bass, go jump off the bridge, do the rope swing, go swimming, go catch a couple more bass. Like that's kind of what it's all about. Just slow down, take everything in. Don't have like just when people just go. I mean, if you're chasing a trophy or you're on a guided trip, like once in a lifetime trip, like people build up these expectations. They tie a ton of flies. Like, I always tie way too many flies. Like, really research, like, talk to your guide, be like, okay, what 3 fly patterns should I tie, or 4? Just tie a few of them, because you're not going to need them all, because you have boxes of flies sitting in your garage for years that you're never going to use again. But yeah, I mean, I don't say lower your expectations, but just be ready for anything to happen when you're fishing. Like, even out here, like, fishing was super tough this morning. Like, I expected us to just
get out and
hammer fish this morning, and it was super tough. Then we went and
that's because I didn't warn you about fishing with me.
Changed the program, caught a few, and then went back up to where we started, and you caught a cranker. It was awesome. So,
dude, that was, yeah. Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
I was just excited to get on a boat on a river in Montana. Like, we could, and I think this kind of goes into your point, is with expectations and everything, is like, you know, like, you guys are like, I'm coming. Hopefully this won't sound too terrible, but like, I'm coming up, and you guys are like, all right, we want to, you know, even when we were talking, like, you wanted to make sure we found fish and we didn't have issues with heat, and like, we had a good day on the water. And all I'm thinking is like, I just want to go. Like, I'm excited just to meet guys that have lived up here, fished their whole life, get to spend a day with them. Like, I don't care. Like, obviously, I mean, I want to catch a fish, but like, at the end of the day, like, it's just, for me, like, just learning and seeing and getting to like see y'all's perspective of, you know, this river and this whole entire area that we're hanging out in. Which, I mean, I, you know, same thing, like, if you're talking about the expectations with like your family, like, they're just happy probably to just be on the boat and not at the house watching TV.
But I'm like, we gotta catch fish.
We have to catch so many fish. I do the same thing with my wife, where I'm like, I'll take her red fishing, and I'm like, oh, you gotta catch one on fly.
Yeah.
Like, you have to. This is how you have to. And she's just looking at me like, I'm gonna kill you.
I don't care.
All right.
I don't care.
Yeah, it's taken me a minute, but I'm starting to get better about, like, we're just gonna go let the dog run around, and if we find a fish, we find a fish.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
I got a tip for you. Don't leave your sinking line hanging off the back of the boat when Calvin's running the motor.
Why not?
Yeah, it'll get chopped off.
What do you mean? Actually, speaking of that, all right, so you guys have fished all over. Sketchiest, what are some of the sketchiest moments you've had while fishing? Because I think people can learn from, like, when, you know, hopefully people learn, like, we'll hear it and be like, oh, let me not do that anymore.
I've had some sketchy jet boat sessions.
Yeah.
Like,
have you ever launched anybody out of the boat?
Almost, but I have. I say I've been running jet boats. Well, I've been running boats since I was like 15. Had a few sketchy boat days, like, you know, weather. Obviously, if you're on big water, freaking watch the weather. Yeah. I did not do that as a young guide, and I got stuck out in the middle of Lake Iliamna on a 16-foot tiller jet, and surfed waves in with 2 clients. I tried to make it all the way over to Tulare, which was a really bad idea, but it was July, so just need a boat ride. Yeah, I would say probably the sketchiest was out on the coast of Alaska, running kind of a narrower style jet boat, tiny John boat with big, you know, the motor was pretty big. It was 40-horse tiller. River was blown out, but the pilot was like, well, we flew all this way. We're going to find dollies, probably not catching silvers. You know, the water has maybe a foot of visibility, but it was definitely like up in the trees and stuff. And one of the other guides had 2 clients in his boat. We ran all the way upriver to the spot to check it out, fished there, caught a few dollies, and coming back downriver, he was hugging the shoreline too tight, and he actually put his jet boat on top of a freshly fallen, like, birch or aspen, or I don't know what type of tree it was, and like water was like flushing into the back of their boat, and he was freaking out. He couldn't get the boat off, and it was starting to fill with water, and he's on like a cut bank and rushing water. So spun the boat around. I got my jet boat right beside him, like trying not to get stuck on the same branch.
Yeah.
Couldn't get his boat off. Like, I was pulling on it and tried to tie a rope to it to pull it off, and the motor kept catching on the tree, and he was trying to trim it up. It was just kind of it was a nightmare. And finally I pulled my jet boat up to his. I stood on the log, pushed his boat off with his clients, and hopped back in my boat. It was really sketchy. I shouldn't have done that. But I did.
This, you know, one of the things that I've noticed, like, I've started to realize, is people don't understand weather.
Yeah.
Or conditions, or like being like, oh, this is bad. Like, I've had I had a few times, like in my skiff, where I've gotten back to the boat ramp and I've looked at the guys I'm with and I was like, dude. And they're like, what? I'm like, if one thing had gone wrong, that was it. And they're like, wait, are you serious? Like, yeah, dude. Like, we did not need to be like where we were at. So yeah, I just feel like it's one of those things that like people just don't realize like how close to danger they are on the water. Just being on the water, you're already close enough.
I actually factored in my. I'm way past 9 lives. I think I'm at like 13. I've had major boat issues, near drowning in Lake Michigan as a kid, going down in a boat about maybe a mile from shore, and basically having to swim for it, and then getting hypothermia and almost sinking, but managing to just crawl up on the beach at the last moment.
Jeez.
And then I've been in a couple of planes that didn't make it off the ground, or didn't quite make it onto the ground properly, and ended up actually almost sunken in a plane in a river in Alaska. Fortunately, I was able to get out of that one okay. And then
always undo your seatbelt first.
Yeah.
Always.
And then, lots of times being on the ocean in boats that were too small, or on big lakes in boats that were too small, or kind of pushing the envelope. But, and I've spent a lot of time around bears, and generally most of those situations have worked out well. But one really interesting one was I was in my drift boat coming around a bend with my clients, and there was a big boar grizzly on the shore, and he was just super agitated. He was woofing and snorting and just stomping, but we were in a boat, so it's like, wow, he's really upset. I don't know what the problem is, but we were in a boat, and so we were like 30 feet away, just floating along, watching him. And we kind of came to this corner where there was a cut bank, and these trees were leaning out over the water, and we floated right under the trees. And what we then realized was he had chased another grizzly bear up into this tree, which grizzly bears don't climb trees. But this one had managed to scramble up into the branches. And as we floated under the tree, the bear fell out of the tree and almost fell into my drift boat.
That would have been a good video, Fred.
So fortunately, it was like as I'm going into the tree, like Bart comes down, and I look up and I see him coming down, and he fell just into the water just behind the boat. So that was interesting.
That would have been interesting.
Dude, I grew up in South Carolina. The worst you had to worry about was a water moccasin. You had to worry about grizzly bears falling out of trees.
That scares me. Grizzly bears are big. You can usually get a spot on them.
Yeah,
but
you can see them
water
long ways
moccasins,
away.
I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
But anyway, yeah.
I'd like to have seen that, Fred.
Not me.
I'd have liked to have
I told you guys about my experience with bears. Like, I have none.
No.
I have one close call with a bear. I ran into a black bear in New Mexico. I was on the edge of a lake, and he walked out like 40 feet away from me. And it was one of those like, oh, shit. And then he decided he had other things he had to do that day. But that's like the only time I think I've ever seen a bear. So those were the first questions I think I asked y'all this
I could do
morning.
a whole podcast on bear stories.
A whole podcast on bear.
Yeah.
Well, you only have a 4-hour drive. We'll do another hour after this of just Fred's bear stories.
I don't even want to bring up more bear stories because I know we'll
and
keep going.
And we could go with Bigfoot, and we got all kinds of stuff. Aliens. Yeah. We see them out here a lot.
No, instead of bear stories, about fish stories. Best fish.
Well, so I had some clients from Montana that showed up in Alaska with their brand new 6-weight Winston rods, which Winston makes a beautiful fly rod. September in Alaska is generally not the time to bring out your 9-foot 6-weight Winston to tackle the big rainbows. And this guy hooked a big rainbow. We got a good look at this fish when he ate and took off, and he was definitely in that 3-foot class, super fat. He jumped out of the water and he completely emptied the reel, just took off downstream, broke him off at the backing knot, took everything and gone. And so I'm like, well, you can borrow one of my rods and let's go back to fishing. So I gave him one of my rods, and about an hour later we're still fishing the same bank, wading the shoreline, catching lots of fish, not as big as that one, but all of a sudden I see a fly line trailing in the current, and I see the backing, and the fish had swum down river 100 yards or so and turned around and came back up the river, and everything was hanging behind him. So I waded out in the water and I got a hold of the backing, and I got back to the rod, and I strung it all the way down, tied it back to the reel. We followed along the bank. We got everything back to the fly line on the reel, and he set up on him again, and the fish jumped and turned around and went all the way to the backing knot again. The second time, my backing knot actually held, and he just broke off the tippet. But
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that was pretty epic.
That's pretty wild. I got a tarpon story like that.
Right on.
We were in the Everglades, hooked a tarpon. Tarpon broke the fly line at the backing knot. So we're still pulling around this lagoon. We're in Everglades. And we're fishing along, looking. We see some more tarpon. All of a sudden, we see this fly line float up. And so our guide, he goes, "Oh, there's your fly line." He starts pulling over to it, and the fly line just starts going.
Did you?
Snaking away. So we get super close to it. He grabs it, kind of pulls out of his hand, lets it go. He pulls over in front of it, grab it, and we tie this janky backing knot. Same thing. Strung it through the guides, reeled it up, set the hook, and got an 80-pound tarpon.
You landed it though.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was wild.
All right, you guys obviously have fished a bunch of places, but if you could go anywhere in the world, where are you going and what are you fishing for?
My bucket list right now would be to go to Iceland or Greenland and catch Atlantic salmon and big dollies or big Arctic char and brown trout.
Iceland or Greenland?
Yep.
I think you're the first person on this podcast that said Iceland or Greenland.
Everybody wants to go to the Seychelles and catch giant trevally and stuff, which I do too, but I'd rather go catch an Atlantic salmon on the
GTs
swing.
are fun.
Or Calvin's done that a little bit.
Right now, as hot as it is, Iceland sounds nice.
Yeah, Greenland today.
Yeah, I'd have to say, I've never caught an Atlantic salmon, and I love swinging flies for fish, so I'd love to go to Pinoy or someplace in Russia.
That's not happening.
Norway,
unfortunately,
I
for a
know.
while.
Norway, wherever.
The
and
Alta River in Norway would be the absolute
that'd be the mecca for me.
bucket mecca trip.
And I'd like to go to those small islands for GTs that are way off the map, and you gotta, take a 2-week boat ride. But I think going Atlantic salmon fishing that'd be awesome for me. I would just love to go do it. Tons of people do it, but I don't. It's too expensive, too far to travel. I need to do it.
Have you guys ever looked at, and I can't remember the name of the fish, I just know it's big. I think it's a salmonoid species in Mongolia.
Oh,
Taimen.
Yeah, Taimen.
Yeah.
Taimen.
Yeah, that would be cool too.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Go drink some fermented mare's milk and
I just want to fish.
fish a
I don't
fly
need
that
to
looks
drink.
like a squirrel.
I think I'd like to go more for the culture. To catch one would be pretty cool, but
Yeah. No, that it looks like it's not. That looks like a trip where you're not just oh, here's the guide and here's the van and we're going. It's all right, you're going to go on a horse and you're going to go sleep in a tent and it's the spare room it's a spare cot in the room with the family and you're living with the Mongolians for however long.
I think Kamchatka Peninsula Atlantic or king salmon fishing would be fun.
Yeah. I love
some of
king
those untouched rivers out there would be pretty sweet. When I was in college, there were a few guys going over there, Ed Ward and a few guys, and some of the photos they would bring back catching those giant Atlantic salmon.
King salmon.
I keep saying Atlantic salmon. I
King
got Atlantic
salmon
salmon on the
stealing.
mind.
It's the Atlantic
King
salmon
salmon.
that make it over into the Pacific.
They're king salmon. I apologize. And I talked to Ed a lot about it, and he actually fished a lighter tip, so he wouldn't catch fish that were too big to handle. He liked the 20 to 30 pounders. So he'd fish a type 3.
They just break off.
Yeah. So he'd fish a type 3
King
and
salmon
catch
can
the smaller
definitely
ones.
be too big.
Yeah, and then but he said he tried dredging a couple times and would hook some of those big 50, 60, 70 pounders, and he's like, it's just too much work. I'm like, oh my God, it sounds terrible. Please don't let me ever go to that. If I'm ever in that situation, I'm like, oh, the king's too big. I don't want to catch it. Come on.
No, we're gonna try.
I'm gonna try.
Have you ever caught an amberjack?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like that where you catch one, you're like, okay, I don't ever need to do that
Yeah,
again.
got him. Done.
Cool.
Check that one off.
I caught a couple yellowtail in deep water recently, and that was okay, I'm done. That's enough.
Yeah.
I need to go out west and catch their version of yellowtail because those actually get some size to them. I'm so used to the yellowtail snapper and the keys that are 12 inches.
Yeah. Yellowtail and outside of La Paz and Baja are awesome.
Yeah.
No, they get huge, like
They get
30, 40
huge.
pounds.
They're quite delicious.
Very good
So that's
eating.
what we did. We
Yeah.
were fly fishing, but then we did a little deep drop to catch some yellowtail so we could have some delicious food.
I'm slowly working my fly fishing west.
Yeah.
You know,
To
I think-
Baja.
To Baja. Yeah, I've got some plans for Baja, but
Sweet.
got to make them. You know, anyways. You know how planning a trip goes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys. For everyone listening, if they want to check the Fly Project, the House of Fly Out websites,
Flyproject.us.
.us.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Because we
Just
are
go to
made
that
in
one.
the US.
Instagram.
Flyproject.us. Yeah. Is it the Fly Project on Instagram?
It's just Flyproject.us.
Or just Fly Project on Instagram?
On Instagram? Well, that's a good question.
I'm gonna have links down below.
Yeah. Okay.
So if
There is a band called the Fly Project.
It's Fly Project USA on
Yep,
Instagram.
on Instagram.
okay, and then YouTube, you guys got some videos.
Mm-hmm.
We do
Come
have
in
a
the works.
YouTube channel.
I'm gonna say that the bull trout video you guys did was awesome.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Jay did a great job on that one.
that one was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're looking for more YouTube fly fishing content, check the link down below. Go watch some of their videos. If you like Wildfly, Will Phelps, any of those guys, you're gonna love what the Fly Project guys are doing because it's the same class. It's the same. I don't know. It's the same. It's good. It's awesome. And then so if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, whatever, if you guys could leave a 5-star review and share it with your friends. If you're listening on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, all that other stuff. Guys, thank you so much for today. We didn't really talk about that. It was a good day. We caught fish. Watch the video on YouTube.
Yeah, watch the video. It was funny day. Too many rods
Dude,
in the boat.
I had a blast. So I can't thank you guys enough. I know you guys got to get on the road. You got long drives ahead of you. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And hopefully if you guys ever find yourselves wanting to come to Texas, just let me know.
Yep.
Sounds good.
We
We'll
fish
look at
every
up on
redfish. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming out today. It was
Yep.
killer.
Awesome. Sweet.
Tight lines, everybody.